Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. And today I'm joined by Mike from the Blue Boys Network. How are you doing today, Mike?
I'm fine, thanks, mate. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very good. I'm just enjoying Fri- the Friday evening.
Yeah, good. Yeah, and you know what? I love the fact you're wearing a red jumper on a day where we're talking about Everton. It's brilliant, and
It's very poetic.
yeah, that's it. Poetic.
The, obviously, obviously your club is in the crash right now. Okay. So what, so what exactly is the problem in your opinion? Is it just bad ownership or bad recruitment or a bit of everything?
Where do we start, Anthony? Where do we start, mate? Um, so let's talk about it. Let's open it up. So Everton have been run really badly now for about 7 years, and then even before that, we've been run by a chairman that doesn't have a winning bone in his body. Let's say that. So it started not great from the board. Everton have spent millions and millions of pounds on rubbish that just can't keep the ball, can't score goals, clearly can't defend. And very gradually, the team has declined. We've had, I don't know, 8 managers in 9 years. The team's in free fall, mate. And I think this season, with all of the issues, the money spent, the board, the fans protesting against the fans, then the board making up or potentially bringing out stories that aren't quite as bad as they seem, dragging the Everton fans through the mud.
Yeah.
Yeah, mate, it's just a mess from top to bottom.
Have you had the same ownership the whole time for the last 8 years?
Yeah, so it's been bad for a number of years before, as I said, about 20 years before. But for the last 7 or 8 years, well, 7 years, we've been owned by a gentleman called Farhad Mashiri, and it's just accelerated the problems because he's got money and he's made it worse. So yeah, we've gradually got worse. Frank Lampard obviously did a job last season keeping us up. Um, I don't think he can keep us up this season. I think we need a new manager, which I'm sure you'll ask me about in a bit, but
But
it's not good.
from the outside looking in, yeah, I think at the end of last season, you should say obviously it's bigger than Lampard, but I think you should have just said Lampard, thank you very much. We're gonna go in a different we're gonna go in a different direction.
Yeah, and you know what? I wouldn't have blamed any Everton fan for thinking like that, and I also wouldn't have thought bad of the board if they'd done that. I think the problem was he's came across as a manager who really buys into the club and buys into the fans, and that's brilliant. Like, we respect him for that, and we actually love him for that. The issue with Frank is tactically he's inept. His substitutions are poor at times. He's been part of a recruitment team that have brought in players like Dwight McNeil um, and Malpay from places like Brighton and Burnley, who, you know, they weren't good enough to start in them teams, and they've come into Everton and they haven't been good enough here either. So he is part of the problem. Um, I would have had no problem if he left at the end of last season, but he almost warranted giving him 6 months this season, and I would have made the change again just after the Burnley game, just before the World Cup started. I would have sacked Frank Lampard then and brought in a new manager in that time.
Do you, it might sound a bit obvious, but do you think the club are using him as a scapegoat? You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course, and what's really good about you is you do your research. Every guest you come on, you try to learn the story behind the guest and behind the club that they support, or if they're doing something different, say WWE, and you've had loads of stars on, you try to understand the subject matter. So you know how poor it's been for Frank Lampard, because unfortunately he's had to be that scapegoat. He's been that person that people have sort of targeted. And he did his press conference on Thursday, and the board were, nowhere to be seen again, nowhere to be heard again. And Frank Lampard has to answer all these questions. So, he's being pointed at by fans. He's being pointed at by the board, and he is being used as a sort of a shield for the fans and a shield for the board, because he's on the side of the fans, but the board pays wages. So he's stuck in the middle, the poor bloke.
Yeah, yeah. So do you know Mashiri? Was he the gentleman that was interested in having a seat on the board at Arsenal? But that's going down, or was that a different gentleman?
No, so Farhad Moshiri, I think he owned 10% of Arsenal. I think Alicia Usmanoff, who's a close friend of Moshiri, owned 30%. And then I think Stan Kroenke, the current owner of Arsenal, owned the rest of it. It's very obvious why Moshiri and Usmanoff didn't, own Arsenal and make those footballing decisions. And that's because they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, you have to be bad to make Stan Kroenke seem competent, don't you?
And that's the problem. If you go back 3 years ago, Everton was sort of in this race to sign a new manager, and it was either Arteta or Carlo Ancelotti. And people were saying that Everton were ambitious because we went and got Carlo Ancelotti, and Arsenal got Arteta. And actually, the clubs are like that now.
I mean, Carlo Ancelotti didn't do that one season, did he?
He did. What did he do? He did 18 months. 18 months before Real Madrid come calling, and he won the Champions League with Real Madrid. Unbelievable. That could have been with Everton. That he could have won the Champions League.
What? What makes it worse for you? It's not like it's not like you're one of the only teams that are able to. And if you look at Liverpool and Man United, if you're a billionaire, why would you? Basically, what I'm saying is, it's not like somebody can come in and buy you it. And if you had like Liverpool and Man United up for sale, you're gonna go for them clubs.
Yeah, of course you are. Of course you are. And this is the problem, Everton. Farhad Moshiri, the owner, he's had talks with people about buying Everton and investing in Everton, and they've all either said no or they've disappeared, and that's because the club is around like dog shit.
And why would you want to take up a percentage of a club when you can just buy the whole club if you go for Man United or Liverpool?
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, to be honest, if it wasn't for the fact that football clubs these days cost hundreds of millions, if not billions of pounds, I'd get all the Everton fans together and say, right, let's buy the club. Or if there's 100,000 Everton fans and we all stuck in £1,000, is that enough to buy Everton Football Club? Well, I don't know. I don't know, but honestly, mate, I'd do anything. Anyway, your YouTube subscribe. I mean, come on, you've gone to 4,000 subs now. You can pay for the club. You're on making money now, again.
I wish.
Where's the adverts? That's what I'm waiting for. The adverts. Where's the adverts?
if you do get relegated, that could put your club in real danger. Because don't forget, you got a new stadium coming soon, and you can't be realistically, you can't be in the championship when you're in a great big stadium, and you won't be able to fill it every week.
No, there's loads of problems, isn't there, if you think about it. If we go relegated, the stadium's not even finished yet. So if we got relegated, what's the costs? How many millions is somebody going to lose by sponsoring a football team that's not in the Premier League? Who's going to want to invest in a stadium that's not seen on the worldwide stage as much as the Championship? And there's no disrespect to Championships clubs. So you're absolutely right, Ant. If we go down, Everton, they fall into oblivion, mate. And as long as, they've got players like Neil Mulpay and Dwight McNeil trying to keep you in trying to get you re-promoted, we're going to be stuck in the Championship for a long time. So we have to stay up. We have to.
And I'm currently watching some Championship football right now, yeah. And both of these teams look better than Everton, so it's not a guarantee that you're gonna come straight back up either.
I'm telling you now, there's a game going on right now, which is Burnley against West Brom, and I guarantee both teams would beat us right now. That's how bad we are, Ant.
I mean, obviously hindsight is 2020, but yeah, I think you would have been better under Vincent Company, to be honest. I know it's not just about the manager, but at least he would have brought a style of play. Maybe I don't know. I'm just assuming.
Yeah, and do you know what, Ant? You're probably right, because the problem is, I don't understand Frank Lampard's style of play. It changes game by game. There's never any rhythm. There's always seems to be a hole in the middle of the midfield. And when you sit there and you think, actually, Everton have got Ladrissa Ganagai, Anana, Decore, they're three fairly decent midfielders. Yet you're telling me we've got a massive hole in the middle of our midfield. How does that make sense? So Lampard's got to work on that. If he's the Everton manager after Saturday.
I mean, we all due respect to Burnley. I don't think they have better quality players than you do.
Well, they don't have better quality players, but they've got a better manager, and that manager seems to get results out of them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So in hindsight, you probably the way we Vincent Company, to be honest. But as I say, as you said, if you have bad ownership, then you're not going to make the right appointment, are you?
No, and this is an owner that a week ago, come out and did like an open letter saying that, they'd watched what the Everton fans wanted and they've appointed managers that the Everton fans wanted. Well, I can sit here hand on heart and tell you, I did not want Rafa Benitez, yet he managed Everton Football Club.
I can't remember. Did the fans want Carlo Ancelotti at the time?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Carlo Ancelotti was like, it was like all of a sudden Everton were back on the map. It was almost like teams looked at Everton and went, do you know what? They're going places because they've got Carlo Ancelotti as manager. But the problem is, it's keeping these people. We couldn't keep Carlo Ancelotti. Do you know he took a 50% pay cut to go to Real Madrid? 50% cut, not rise. He went from £12 million a year to €6 million a year. He went from one of the highest paid managers in the world to just an average. So
you have to wonder what was promised to you when he first came, and what did they not deliver on. Well, I think it's obvious what they didn't deliver on. Because I think one of the main problems is with Everton at all over the last 5 years is just really bad, really bad recruitment. And you have, with all due respect, you have mid, mid-level Premier League player, mid-level, mid-level Premier League players on high wages. They can't get rid of them.
Well, it's exactly that. And, you know, if you talk about mid-level Premier League players, let's talk about them. You know, Tom Davies, Michael Keane. There's two straight off the bat. Doucouré, there's another one. McNeil is probably Championship. Malpay, Championship. You know, people were raving about Anthony Gordon. If you offered me £25 million for Anthony Gordon right now, I'd drive him to any club in the world, no problem. I'll even put the petrol in. So this club it's rotten, and the group of players we've got, you know, some of them will fight for the shirt, but some of them won't. Some of them are on big wages and are just taking them wages while they can. They're mercenaries. And while we sit here and we're in the position we are, we don't need any of those people at the club. We need 15 players that will work their socks off every week to get every single point they can. And unfortunately, I think Everton have probably got about 4.
And unfortunately, when you're in when you're in the position that you're in, you have to have every single player fighting for every single point. Because throughout history, there's been teams that have not had a lot of quality, but they've been able to scale because they've had every single player fighting for the value and really putting 110% in every single game of
Yeah,
every.
and you see that because you know you sit there and you think, you know, Southampton were bottom of the league, and you know they are still bottom of the league. They came to Goodison Park last weekend and beat us after being 1-0 down. That's a team that fights. You know, you've got West Ham who are on the same points as us. We play tomorrow. It would not surprise me if they beat us. We've lost to Wolves because they wanted it more than we did. We've lost to Brighton. We've lost to We've lost to Bournemouth because they want it more. So, you know, the Everton Football Club, and I said this last season and I got a bit of stick for it, but we're not really designed to be fighting at the bottom of the league because we haven't got the right players for it. We've got the right players that with a bit of confidence, they do fairly well and they might finish 12th. We haven't got a group of players that can get us out of a relegation battle. We got lucky last season because the fans were brilliant. The club are losing, the board are losing the fans, and I don't know if they'll be that lucky this season.
Let's be honest, the only reason why he stopped up that season is because there were teams that were worse than you in the league.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and do you know what? I'd even go as far as saying some of the teams that went down last season, you could arguably have said they were better than us, or they offered more than us. They just didn't get the results at the right time. You know, I remember watching Burnley play Everton last season. I remember being 2-1 up, and I remember then losing 3-2. And I remember after that game, I think it was March, going, we're going to get relegated this season. And I firmly believed it. And if you'd have said to me on the last game of the season, Burnley have stayed up and Everton have gone down, I wouldn't have been surprised. So this football team is literally cruising towards relegation. And it's horrible to say, but we've left it late in January to bring in players. We're being linked with different players, but, you know, they haven't necessarily got the Premier League experience. Whereas, you know, you see West Ham today go and sign Danny Ings, who will score goals.
Yeah, and to be, if it came down to you and West Ham to stop her, I would 100% put my money on West Ham.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, yeah, but you would because you know Danny Ings and you'll know this, you know this very well. Danny Ings scores goals. You know, he will get you. If he plays 19 times for West Ham, he'll score 8 goals, 7 or 8 goals. He'll pop up in the right places. He'll score the header, or he'll, you know, be a nuisance in the box. Everton haven't got a single player that does that.
In our hypothetical world, do you think Everton, do you think Danny would have been a good signing for you, or not? Or do you think would he be a good signing for you in a hypothetical world?
Yeah, I think he would have been. I'll just say it as it is, because a lot of people would give me stick for this, but I think he would probably be the best striker we can get at this moment in time. And I honestly think that there isn't another striker that's going to score as many goals as he is in this period of time.
Because Dominic Calvert-Lewin is good on his day, but can sometimes either go missing or he's suffering a lot of injuries. So really, you needed a solid backup, and he would have been perfect for you guys, to be honest.
He wouldn't have been a backup, and he would have been our number one. He'd have started every game. He'd have started over Calvert-Lewin, because Lewin, you know, as I say, Danny Ings will outscore probably any striker that Everton signed this season, probably any striker that Wolves signed, any striker that Bournemouth signed, any striker that Forest signed, and all of the teams, even Leeds. He would outscore any of the strikers that play for that team, and I'd put that. I'd say that at the end of the season, and I'll check that actually. That's interesting. I've said that, but Calvert-Lewin sometimes is brilliant. Aerially can be fantastic, and at other times he goes missing. And Everton need players who are going to be accountable at the minute, and he is not.
And I know this is not a popular. I know that this is not a popular thing to do anymore, but do you think Calvert-Lewin would be better in a two up top formation?
Yeah, I do. I think Calvert-Lewin would be good in a two up top formation, because I think if he gets the ball into feet, he can run in behind in the channels, or if he has somebody that could hold the ball up for him, he can run in the channels, or he could hold the ball up for somebody to run in behind him in the channels. I think Calvert-Lewin could be a really good utility man, almost playing different positions in the front three. The problem is, it's not the way Everton play, and it's, in my opinion, it probably should be at times. We need to be scoring more goals, which means we need more people in the final third. Everton don't do that, so there's loads of issues. There's absolutely loads of issues. We're being linked with players like Moussa Dembele, and we've been linked with Marko Arnautovic, and these are players that I'd happily take on loan, no problem. But again, I'll go back to, will they score more goals than Danny Ings? Probably not.
You know what we were talking about earlier? We played not seeming interested. I would imagine like Arnautovic would be one of the last players that you would want, because he come into the end of his career, and to be let's be honest, if you get relegated, is it really going to affect him long term?
No, he's not bothered. Yeah, he wouldn't be bothered if Everton go down. And you know, we've signed players like this before. Another one was Dele Alli. We signed Dele Alli last season. His best performance was on the game that we stayed up by, because he was calm and composed and wasn't bothered if Everton went down, whereas the rest of the team was. But what Everton need right now is fighters, and I don't think Marko Arnautovic is that, and I didn't think Dele Alli was that, and I don't think half the Everton team are that. I don't think Mulpay's that. I don't think Manil's that. I don't think Tamari Gray's that. Tom Davis is that. I don't think most of the midfield are. I don't think most of the defence are.
Have you not got anybody in the youth team? Anybody in the youth team that you could promote? I
Yeah,
know.
well, this is the problem, man. What happens with Everton's youth team is they go out on loan. The good ones, the ones that might make it in the first. And they go out on loan, then they come back to Everton, then they get sold, and that's what happens. And they get sold for like £500,000. It's not like Chelsea; they sell their teenagers for like £20 million to some random club. We don't do that. We have players who play a couple of games, come back to Everton, get sold. Nathan Broadhead is one of them. Lewis Dobbins currently at Derby. He'll probably come back in the summer, may get sold. Ellis Sims has just come back from Sunderland. He'll be, on the bench for a few weeks. End of the season, he'll get sold. It's just Everton all over, mate. We're just a mess, top to bottom. Recruitment, academy. We're toilet. We are toilet.
Do you know? Do you know if you went back to 20? If you went back to the start of the season, or go back 5 years, and if you could change one thing about the club, what would you change? Would it be the ownership, or would it be just the way the club is run as a whole?
It would be the ownership. It would be the ownership and the board as a joint, because I really truly believe that if you had a different owner and a better board, we wouldn't be in this mess. Truly.
Yeah. The obviously, I've seen you mention that last season you took your son to your first game. Is it hard to encourage you to support? Is it hard to encourage him to support Everton when there's loads of other teams that he might be interested in?
Yeah, well, yeah, of course, because Everton are, and I hate to say this because I love my football team, but we're irrelevant. We're not competing in the top 6 positions, but we did that 10, 15 years ago. We're not competing for Europe. We're just a Premier League team now, and actually the history of Everton, my dad's generation and my generation, I've not seen Everton win anything, but the generation before me saw us win league titles, win European titles, saw us win FA Cups. I've seen none of that. So, for the younger generation now, they're looking at teams like Chelsea, Manchester City, Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Tottenham, Newcastle.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna say, the last thing you would probably want is for him to start supporting Liverpool.
I'd disown him. I'd disown him. I'd disown him. He'd be gone. Honestly, he'd be gone. Bye, Finn. Bye. That's what he would be, gone.
So obviously, you were a part of the sitting in protest the other week.
Yeah.
Do you think what do you know things like that? I know you have to do something when you. I personally don't think that would even sway anybody's opinion, to be like in terms of on the board, to be honest.
No, of course not. No. So there was probably 3,000 or 4,000 people that stayed behind and sat there or stood there talking, and we did our protest, and we were very behaved. We sang songs like Ken Wright and Co. It's time to go. Sack the board. It was peaceful. It was just singing, but we were making our feelings known. The problem you've got is we look like a small minority. That was only 10% of the attendance at Goodison Park that day, and there's a lot more Everton fans that don't agree with the situation, but won't necessarily stand up and do anything about it. And I get it, I understand, and that's fine. People, for example, in the city, people have plans after games. They might have kids they need to collect, they might have places they need to be. Fine. But we need to do more to tell this board that we don't want to be managed, we don't want to be owned by him and them anymore. It's great that he's produced a stadium for us, and I am grateful for that. But he's also wasted £550 million in 6 years on players like Balassi, Klassen, Luckman, Vlasic, Rooney, Sigurdsson, Keane, Pickford, Mina.
And one second.
Right.
Apologies about that. So what? So where do you think the wheels started to come off the track? Like,
the moment they recruited Ronald Koeman and brought in Steve Walsh from Leicester 7 years ago, it's never been good. There was one season where Everton finished sixth, but being brutally honest and realistic, the football I didn't enjoy. I didn't think Koeman never bought into Everton. He used to sit there and say, "Yeah, Everton are this or Everton are that." It was never we. He was never proud to be our manager. And for me, yeah, I never bought into Koeman. I never really liked him, and it just never got better. It never got better ever. Sam Allardyce, bad one. Unsworth, bad one. There was a bit of a feel-good factor around Goodison when Ferguson had his 5 games and we got a draw against Arsenal, draw against Manchester United, and we beat Chelsea. There was a bit of a feel-good factor there. But this club now, for probably 5 or 6 years, hasn't brought joy to any Evertonian's heart. It's brought pain.
It may. I know this might sound ridiculous because at the end of the day, it's only sport. But for some people, it must be heartbreaking going to watch the games every week, especially when you know the type of play that you're going to play and the performances that you're more than likely going to get every single week.
To go to a home game for me, I travel roughly 215 miles home. So I'd go to Goodison, get upset, and come home still upset 3 hours later. And it is tough. It is tough because the club are so poor that I buy my ticket and I'll go to the game and I semi-expect us to lose. Whereas before, under David Moyes, for example, I would go to that game at Goodison Park and we would play any other Premier League team and I would expect to win. At home, I would expect to win because Everton was such a fortress. Nobody wanted to go to Goodison Park and play Everton. But we're shit now.
With that when you had like Delaney and Stephen Pienaar and
Mikel Arteta, Yakubu, Tim Cahill, Jagielka, Lescott, Tim Howard. Yeah, they were the better times for me as an Everton fan.
And just by some of the names that you mentioned, you can already remember the better quality of team. I know a lot of people do not right. Let's be honest, yeah. Like under David Moyes, you were never gonna challenge for the league, but at least you were up there, and at least you would win at least half of your games every season. So it was worth the experience.
Yeah, well, Everton under David Moyes, they finished 4th. They finished fifth, I think, 2 or 3 times. We finished sixth 2 or 3 times. I think under 12 or 11 seasons under David Moyes, Everton finished in Europe 7 times. You know, he got Everton, and you know, I still to this day believe that if he had the financial backing then that we have now, I really do think Everton would have turned into a top 4 team. You know, it's funny because back in the day, 15 years ago, it was the so-called top 4, whereas today it's now the top 6. But Everton were better than 2 of the teams in that top 6 now.
Yeah. And obviously there's a lot of rumours that David Moyes could potentially come back if he leaves West Ham. Yeah, I can't see why he would leave West Ham here to come to you guys when you're probably in the worst position. I know you're in the same position league wise, but as a team, you're probably a worse team if I'm being honest. So
Yeah. No, I agree. And the one thing I would say is I think David Moyes will be sacked from West Ham, and if he was sacked, I'd absolutely appoint him at Everton if he wanted the job. And I suspect David Moyes would probably come back. He's mentioned it before. He's had talks. David Moyes would. I'm convinced David Moyes would come back to Everton. And when he joined Everton, he had a really rubbish team that also almost went down. So he's not unused to this with Everton. He could come in. He could get this team up. He could do 2 years just rebuilding, keeping us solid, and then he could leave, and that I'd be absolutely fine with that.
I understand that, but my concern would be for you guys at the club. You would do that, but you would still have the same problems of the board and the owners. That's the only thing. You got let the David bring in a good manager and he's able to steady the ship. You're still gonna have the same crap owner, right? Yeah, so that's what.
We are, but the only thing I would say to caveat that is Frank Lampard has no experience of dealing with this situation. And I would argue that David Moyes, when he joined Manchester United, just after Alex Ferguson had stepped down as manager, I reckon that club was in absolute chaos behind the scenes. And I know he was sacked 9 months later, but this is Man United. We're not Man United, we're Everton. So I think because of his experience, I think he could probably manage it better than Lampard is.
Yeah, you're probably right. Wait, I know you're right. So, and I think in a weird way, I sort of feel sorry for Lampard because whatever because obviously I've always said I think Lampard should have went down into League One and learned it a bit more like like Michael Carey doing. I think Lampard doesn't that to be. I think Lampard doesn't that to be honest. The final thing I'll ask you before we go, who would you like? Who would be your ideal manager for the rest of the season, or maybe for the summer? Is it David Moyes?
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Drum roll. My 4 managers. I'm going to give you my 4 managers that I would take if I could right now, and I'd be happy with. Number 1, Sean Dyche. Number 2, David Moyes. Number 3, Carlos Kobachan at West Brom. And number 4, Sam Allardyce.
I did not expect you to say Sam Allardyce.
Mate, honestly, we're going down without these people.
The, the, so all I'm gonna say is I hope it's going right for you, mate, and let's see what happens. Let's see what happens for the rest of the season.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, Anne, we'll put the date in the diary. I'll come on at the end of the season and you can either try and cheer me up, or you can, if I'm already happy because we've stayed up, you can then try and put me down a bit. I don't know.
So thank you for coming on, mate. I will speak to you soon, and thank you for coming on. You want to promote your stuff really quickly?
Yeah, guys. If you'd, if you haven't seen my channel before, it's Blue Boys Network on Mike. Regular YouTube content, Instagram, Twitter, you name it, on there. So go and hit the like button, subscribe, follow, do whatever you need to do, and yeah, thanks for your support, guys. And as always, no problem, mate. Love coming on.
It's always a pleasure having you on. And if you want to follow me, everyone, it's Anthony Talk One. That's Anthony Talk One on everything. So thank you very much. Speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon, mate.